The night Lake Superior took them. The lake was calm when they left port, too calm for November. At 2:00 p.m. on November 9, 1975, the massive ore carrier Edmund Fitzgerald slipped away from Superior, Wisconsin, her hull heavy with iron ore, her decks slick with cold spray. She was more than a ship. She was a legend. 629 feet of steel, pride of the Great Lakes fleet, undefeated by storms that had crushed lesser vessels. But Lake Superior does not care about legends. By nightfall, the wind began to rise. By early evening, the storm was no longer a warning, it was a threat. Winds screamed past 50 knots, waves rose higher than houses, and snow cut visibility down to nothing. The Fitzgerald pressed on anyway, following another ship through the blackness, her captain confident, her crew experienced. On the radio, the captain's voice was steady, calm, professional. "We're holding our own." Those words would be among the last anyone would ever hear from them. The Edmund Fitzgerald was built to endure punishment. Her steel sides had faced storms before, but this one was different. Waves struck from odd angles, lifting the ship's bow high into the air, then slamming it down with bone-shaking force. Each impact sent stress through her hull, unseen fractures widening beneath layers of steel. Somewhere in the chaos, the ship began to list. The captain reported damage lost radar, water coming in, rails torn away. Still, he believed they could make it. Shelter was close. Whitefish Bay was just hours away, if they could hold on. Inside the ship, the crew worked in near darkness. The roar of the wind drowned out shouted commands. Metal groaned around them like a living thing in pain. Cold water crept into places it had no right to be. Every sailor on the Great Lakes knows one truth: Lake Superior never gives up her dead. Just after 7 p.m., the Fitzgerald vanished from radar. No distress call. No Mayday. No final warning. One moment she was there, cutting through the storm. The next, she was gone. The following ship called out repeatedly. No response. Again and again, silence answered back. 29 men disappeared into the black water in less than a minute. When the storm finally loosened its grip, the lake was littered with wreckage. Lifeboats crushed. Deck fragments twisted and frozen. But there were no survivors. Not one body rose to the surface. Search planes circled for days. Ships scanned the water in widening arcs, hoping against all reason that someone had lived. But Lake Superior had already made its decision. The Edmund Fitzgerald lay broken on the bottom, split in two, her bow and stern resting hundreds of feet apart, her crew sealed inside the cold darkness. Investigators argued for years about what happened next. Some believed a massive rogue wave, what sailors call the Three Sisters, struck the ship in rapid succession, overwhelming her strength. Others blamed structural weaknesses, unseen damage from years of service, or a hatch failure that allowed water to flood the cargo holds. The truth sank with the ship. All that remained were theories, and the sound of the wind howling across the lake each November. Families waited for answers that never came. Wives, children, parents left with nothing but uniforms, photographs, and unanswered questions. Memorials were built. Bells were rung. Names were carved into stone. But the lake stayed silent, cold, unforgiving, indifferent. Today, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is protected by law. Divers who descend to her resting place report an overwhelming sense of unease. The ship lies as she fell broken, dark, untouched. Personal items remain where they last were, preserved by freezing water and eternal night. A grave beneath the waves. Every year, when November winds rise and waves pound the shore, sailors lower their voices. They remember the Fitzgerald. They remember the crew. And they listen, because sometimes, in the roar of the storm, it almost sounds like the lake is still speaking, warning those who dare to cross it, reminding them that even the strongest ships can vanish without a trace, and that on Lake Superior, Some voyages never end because the lake doesn't need permission, and it never forgets.